With respect to National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, we're doing our part to help destigmatize the conversation. You know, many families admit that they recognize little to no evidence, leading them to believe that their loved ones would act upon these feelings. With us today is Dr. Pamela Greene. She's the Assistant Professor of Nursing at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you. Now let's get started with just the obvious question. What are some of the signs that we should look for associated with suicidal thoughts and feelings?
Well, I want to capitalize on what you first said, and that is often people don't recognize when a loved one is getting close to taking their own life. But we do have some things that are recognizable. The obvious, if it's somebody talking about suicide, or less direct, they just wish they wouldn't wake up or be here. But more often than not, it's not quite so obvious. And so we look at people who are feeling like they're not sure what their purpose is. And this can happen particularly if someone's had a job loss or loss of relationships, those kinds of things. Then anxiety. Anxiety is a terrible experience, and it can interfere with sleep. And sleep disturbance is problematic for people. We all know when you're not getting enough sleep, it's hard to think clearly and make good decisions and problem solve. Feeling trapped is another one, like there's just no way out. And particularly with COVID, people are experiencing terrible circumstances at times, and it's hard to think about even tomorrow, let alone months from now. Hopelessness then is one of those. And again, it's not that someone's going to say to you, oh gosh, I feel so hopeless, but it's expressed in their lack of interest in things and hard for them to engage. That feeling of worthlessness or even social withdrawal, pulling back from things. Sometimes if people are having uncharacteristic angry outbursts, much bigger than the circumstances would call for. Recklessness, this idea of maybe they're rehearsing actually what they would do.
Well, this is all useful information, especially considering the diversity of signs that we're looking out for, because many of us can admit that, well, I felt that way and I don't have thoughts of suicide, but it's different for everyone, especially what's going on psychologically. So what is it that drives people to consider suicide an option when dealing with challenges?
I think one of the things that we kind of characterize overall is just this notion of it's excruciating emotional pain. It can be physical pain added to that as well. Typically, people have tried everything they know to do to make their lives better, and it's as if nothing's working out and they can't see any other way out. We have a natural drive to survive, so it takes a lot for anybody to reach that point of wanting to take their own life. That kind of speaks to how bad the pain has to be for people.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you mentioned a lot of people have tried everything, but then there are some that sort of are waiting for somebody to come to them. And that's when it's our job and our responsibility to reach out in a genuine way and to really listen when we ask that question, how are you doing? Now, in addition to that, if you don't feel comfortable you're having these thoughts and you don't want to reach out to someone that you're close to, there are a lot of national initiatives to combat this silent epidemic. Talk to us about the resources available out there for us.
One of our local resources is NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have a vast array of resources and different programming, and they've done a good job of doing some things virtually. There are also a couple of hotlines or crisis lines. One's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and the other one is the Suicide Crisis Line. And while I'm saying those are national, they can kind of loop back around locally. Our MHID, for instance, is also another resource. So any of those kinds of things can, if not directly help, get the person to the help that they need. Often, the sense that somebody cares enough to reach out and try to make that connection is a huge first step.
Well, Dr. Greene, it's such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for having this conversation with us and helping us understand what to look out for. We'll continue to destigmatize the conversation and help do our part to raise awareness and prevent suicide. Thank you so much.